Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Fighting Illini Live, episode 7. We are really getting there. Almost didn't have to turn on the light today. It's almost springtime. I see you can kind of see my new logos now. Got a new camera angle we're trying out tonight. I already like it a lot better. My girlfriend said that you guys don't need to be looking up my nose, and she's correct. So we're trying that out tonight. Man, yeah, you can't really see my logo, the lighting. But hey, a few weeks, we want you to turn the lights on. It'll be bright at showtime. Anyway, welcome to Fighting Illini Live. Episode 7. To date, we are getting into the tight end position group preview, the last of the offensive skill positions today, as well as a bit more basketball news. Probably the last time we'll talk basketball for a while, but there's been a lot of transfer portal news out of Illinois. Most of it unfortunate. But some good news as well. We're going to get to that. Tonight's show, of course, is brought to you on the Voice of College Football Network. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how you can also reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today. That is sponsorships@vocfb.com today. I've also dropped that email in the chat. Tight end position group preview. So last week we spent our entire time on the wide receiver position group preview. That was pretty rough. Oops. Sorry, guys. I forgot to change the ad. There I am. So yeah, tight end position group preview. Really excited for this one, and we're going to get into this one right away because last week took the whole time. We had a buttload of wide receivers to get through, and it ended up barely even being able to talk about basketball. We went over time, but we definitely need to talk about basketball today because there's some big news this week. So tight end position group preview. There are 9 tight ends on the Illinois spring roster. We have 3 returners. That is a typo on my hand. I was about to say 2 returners. We have 3 returners from last year who did play in a game. I'm going to be separating returners who did play and then returners who didn't play, like I did with the wide receivers last week to kind of structure these a little more than I've been doing. So 3 returners that played last year. That is Tanner Arkin, Jordan Anderson, which if you're thinking he's not a tight end, you're half right. We'll get to that. And Jake Furtney. We have 1 new transfer. That is Davin Stoffel. And then we have 3 returners who did not play. Cole Rusk, who's basically a transfer. Tanner Hollinger and Nick True. And then we're getting 2 new recruits, new true freshmen. That is Grant Smith and Logan Farrell. All right. And do remember, Henry Boyer is no longer on their roster. He had a couple catches last year. He transferred to Kentucky, and Carson Good graduated. So our returners, first is Tanner Arkin, and this is going to be your most likely starter at the tight end position. Again, Illinois didn't go crazy with the tight ends last year. I mean, no one really stood out as a true starter. If I had to guess anyone is going to do that this year, it would be Tanner Arkin. He's a senior. It's his 3rd year with the team. He was the team captain last season as well. He already kind of was that starter. He transferred from Colorado State after spending 1 year there, and this is now his 3rd year with Illinois, his final year of eligibility. He played in all 13 games last year. He recorded 16 catches for 111 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 1 carry for 36 yards. That was on a fake punt. That was the Michigan game. If you remember that crazy fake punt, that was his only rushing attempt of the year on that fake punt. Got 36 yards out of it. Not bad. He's a sneaky guy. That play was named, I love this. That was named the Pop-Tarts Crazy Good Play of the Week. Love that. It was a career high, 4 receptions, 28 yards at Nebraska. And I mean, yeah, he's a clear starter. His stat line doesn't really jump out at you on a numbers basis, right? But experience speaks for itself, right? That's something that the numbers just can't capture. It's his 3rd year at the Illini. He was already a team captain last year. Tight ends in Illinois have always been kind of more involved in the blocking game. This is the one guy who kind of, more so But still, 16 receptions in 13 games. That's nothing crazy, right? None of the tight ends are super, super involved. But if anyone's going to step it up, be a clear starter in this tight end group, it's Tanner Arkin. He'll be wearing number 85. All right, Jordan Anderson, number 23. Now we get to that. He is a junior. He played all 13 games last year as a running back. He had 6 carries for 12 yards as a running back. He is converting to tight end for the 2025 season. He is from Naperville, Illinois. He's 6'4", 240, so he clearly has the build to be a tight end. And he was already a pretty good blocking running back. So with Illinois, their history of blocking tight ends, right? We saw Tip Ryman go in the 3rd round, even though he barely had any catches, really, just because he's that good of a blocking tight end. Illinois gets tight ends involved with the blocking scheme really, really well. He's on my Cardinals, Tip Ryman. So that's the main reason why I know that, other than being an Illini fan. It's not every day you get an Illini and Cardinals crossover when you're me. So that's always exciting. I like to nerd out over that, get his name in the episode, no matter what it takes. So it's really hard to know how Jordan Anderson, though, is going to do as a tight end, since it is a new position. Let's move that camera a bit. Again, we're playing around with it. It's only episode 7. We'll get there. It's kind of hard to know how he's going to do overall as a tight end. I clearly think he has the size for it. And again, he'd probably be mostly involved as a blocker. But again, he is a running back. He has that skill position experience. He didn't have any catches as a running back, so he wasn't much of a receiving running back. So it's really hard to tell what they're actually going to do with him. A position change in your junior year is very odd, but Illinois got a great history of position changes as well. I mean, we saw Isaiah Williams go from quarterback to wide receiver. Obviously, he had no catches as a quarterback, and he did just fine. So I'm very confident in Illinois' ability to get this position change going. Bielema has done a good job with that in his recent years at the Illini. So honestly, I'm pretty excited for that because, I mean, that's a speedy guy you got at tight end if he was able to play running back, right? So I think definitely he could be a threat as well. I'd love to see him get some catches. He could be a big surprise. That could be a secret X factor, secret weapon the Illini have. He could just be a blocking threat. It's really going to be hard to tell until their first couple games. But yeah, after spring ball, he is officially listed on their roster as a tight end and no longer a running back. He'll be wearing number 23. I don't know if I said that. The last returner, he only got in 1 game, but he is technically a returner, even though he was a redshirt because he did play 1 game. This is Jake Furtney, number 39. He, as I said, redshirted after 1 game. It was the Central Michigan game. It was week 3. So he was on the roster weeks 1 and 2, EIU and Kansas, but he did not play in those games. He did get involved in the Central Michigan game. He did not record a catch. He is 6'4", 235. So he's actually basically the exact same build as Jordan Anderson. So you see what I'm saying about Jordan Anderson definitely having the physicality to be a tight end. But he's a 3-star recruit. He committed as a preferred walk-on. He played at St. Charles North. And he actually earned interest as a defensive lineman. But he has really good film at tight end that he built up his senior year, even though he was a D lineman for most of his high school career. Nice tape he built up there. He doesn't have much film as a blocker, obviously, because he was very involved more as a skill player at tight end for sure. Because some tight ends are very catch heavy, some tight ends are block heavy. You do both. You have to do both at a tight end role, right? But it's guys have their specialty, like Tip Ryman, like I was talking about earlier. So there's not a whole lot of film of him blocking as a tight end, but I would think he would be involved mostly as a blocker. If he played defensive lineman, I think that's going to be more his specialty, especially when you got Arkin Anderson ahead of him on the depth chart. I certainly think we're going to see Jake Furtney a good amount, even though as a redshirt freshman. Because, I mean, one, he's a returner. He's one of only 3 returners they have at the position, and one of them wasn't a tight end last year. So this guy knows what he's doing. I think that D lineman background, that really gets me excited. That has me really interested in what he can become as a big physical tight end. It's really interesting, at least I think, to have Jordan Anderson and Furtney both be six. They're both 6'4", and then Furtney's 235, Anderson's 240, and will probably, even though they're at the same position, probably play completely differently, right? Like Jordan Anderson's more of a speed threat. They're going to be wanting him to run some routes at a tight end position, whereas Furtney, I'm again, this is all speculation, but I think based off their background, this makes a lot of sense. Furtney's most likely going to be more of blocker because of his D lineman background. It's just so interesting that those guys had the same exact build, and yet one of them was originally a defensive lineman and the other one was originally a running back. Like those positions couldn't be further from each other, other than maybe throwing quarterback instead of running back. But you guys see what I'm saying there? I think that's so interesting that every guy has their same skill set like that. And I think both Anderson and Furtney are, again, even though the same build, are going to bring their own skills to the table behind Arkin. So those are our returners at tight end. We got 3 of them. Next is going to be a transfer. So this is his transfer. Yes, there are some other Arkin was a transfer before, but when I say transfer, I just mean straight up like transfer this year, brand new. So I can put them in their own category, give you guys a first introduction to them because you know the guys I've talked about, even if it's just briefly. So this is David Stoffel. I believe it said Davin earlier. That was a mistake. I apologize for that. It is Davin. It is Davin. I was correct the first time. I don't know why I second guessed myself. It is Davin Stoffel. Davin is a 6'6", 260 sophomore. He is a transfer from South Dakota State. He has 3 years of eligibility left. He played and started in all 14 games for South Dakota State last season. He got 14 because they were involved in the FCS playoff. That was as a redshirt freshman last season. They went a 12-3 record. I don't know. That says 14 games and then 12-3 record. That doesn't make sense. So obviously it's 15 games. I must have just mistyped that. 15 games because of the FCS playoff. 12-3 record. He had 14 catches for 177 yards and a touchdown on the season with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, one of my favorite names in all of college football, the Jackrabbits. He was named up to the Missouri Valley Conference all-newcomer team as just their football conference because there's the differences with the basketball teams. Loyola used to be in the Missouri Valley, and so a lot of teams in the Missouri Valley don't have a football program. But they're FCS. They're FCS. It's pretty hard to gauge how FCS experience carries over most of the time, right? But I mean, for the most part, I think it does. We've seen dudes from the FCS go straight to the NFL, like Carson Wentz, Trey Lance. There can be a whole debate about how those guys actually did in the NFL, but I think the fact that they're going to the NFL, being top first-round picks, I think the FCS has some credibility. Not quite the same. I'm not going to look at his FCS stat line, which is very similar to Arkin's, right? I mean, I'm just a couple less catches actually, but more yards there. But I mean, they were in the FCS playoffs. They went to the semifinal, and I think that winning experience that this dude has that's very important to bring that, right? I mean, the Illini have that, I would argue, after the Citrus Bowl, but actual like playoff experience, like do or die, you're in it for the championship experience. They just don't have that. So I think Davin Stoffel bringing that experience, that's all. I always look at that as a good thing. It can be debated how much of an effect that actually has on a team and on a player, right, and his impact on the team. But it certainly can't hurt, right? I look at that as a good thing. I do. And the dude's just big. He's 6'6". He's 260. I love to see size at tight end. I like to see some big tight ends that can not only block, but also reach over linebackers, defenders, and make those catches over their heads to keep it high for them. Right. The tight end's always supposed to be a safety option for quarterbacks. You especially see that like rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Tight end targets are usually up if you're a rookie, just because tight ends are more of a safety net. And the bigger you are, the easier it is to be a safety net. Even though Altmaier doesn't really need that at this point in his career, right? He's a seasoned vet. But I like to see that. I like to see the winning experience he brings. I think he could see some catches because, yeah, while like Arkin and maybe Anderson, I would say, are probably like the two front runners to get the most targets. They did. No one did like anything crazy at tight end last year, so I certainly think Stoffel can find himself a role in there, right? So I'm not going to dismiss him as a not going to play guy. We'll see the other guys. It's hard to say though if he actually will play because I think there's a returner who did not play last year who actually would be a better candidate for targets, catches, etc. That is Cole Rusk, number 14, kicking off our returners who did not play, of which there are 3. He is 6'5", 250. He's a senior. He transferred from Murray State before last season. However, he missed the entire season. He had a knee injury that he suffered at fall camp, missed the whole year. He also played his freshman year at Eastern Michigan, so the Illini are his third school. It's technically his second year at the Illini, but again, just didn't play because of injury. 2023 then is the last full year of stats we have with him at Murray State, so this is also FCS, but he got in 11 games, 39 receptions, 507 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And even though that's FCS, that certainly stands out a lot more than any other tight end stat line that the Illini have returning, including Stoffel's, who's also coming from the FCS, right? I mean, 39 receptions is way more than anyone else on this team got last year at tight end. 6 touchdowns. So he was an FCS All-American third team. So he had a lot. He's also coming from the FCS. Doesn't quite have that like playoff experience that Stoffel's bringing, but he was a lot more involved. And also, even though he was injured, he was still with the team last year. So I think that with his stat line at Murray State in 2023, I think he's definitely going to be a candidate above Stoffel of those two. Basically feels like getting a new guy in Russ since we didn't get him last year. But yeah, he's definitely in competition to start. Even as a guy who didn't play last year, I would love to see him get involved in the tight end game. He had a great career at Murray State, Eastern Michigan, a nice 2 tight end set with Arkin. I think Illinois is more of a 2 tight end set kind of team since they don't have a clear star tight end. But I think he'll get a decent amount of targets. My guess would be first and second most. I think it's him and Arkin that are going to be first and second in targets. Probably Arkin, as a captain, is still going to lead in targets, but Cole Rusk, definitely look out for Cole Rusk. I'm excited to be getting him finally after we should have had him last year, right? Next is going to be Tanner Hollander. He is number 89. He redshirted last season. He is a 3-star recruit. He is from Stromsburg, Nebraska. There goes my dog again. She is back. Everyone's favorite from last week. Hey. So he played at Cross County High School. Rivals has him as a 2-star, even though everything else has him as a 3-star, which is weird because every other person I've looked at this position group previews, they've been listed as, when they're listed as 3-star, usually Rivals will have him as 4-star. If there's any difference, usually they all agree. But that's like the only time I found that Rivals actually has someone lower. But everyone else is giving him the benefit of the doubt, including ESPN, who I'd say is the most credible. He played 8-man football, though, in high school. I had to look this up because I didn't even know that this was like official. So it's 40-yard width field, 8-man football. On offense, it's just 2 less offensive tackles and then 1 less skill position player. And then on defense, 1 less DB, 1 less linebacker, 1 less defensive lineman are the 3 you're missing on each side of the ball in 8-man football. Most fields are still 100-yard length. There are some that are 80 yards, but Nebraska is 100-yard length. So it's not super different, right? It's not like he played flag football, but there's just a little less traffic. But that was interesting. I really learned a lot about 8-man football, especially the history of 8-man football, specifically in Nebraska. There was a lot of information to be found on that. But it's for schools, that are too small to field a full 11-on-11 roster team. So there's about 1,500 schools in the U.S. that have an 8-man football program as their official football program. I think that's really cool. So anyway, 23 receptions, 408 yards, 12 touchdowns as a senior. He was a 4-year letter winner and 2-time All-State. He was also All-Conference in basketball. We are unfortunately getting to the point where I don't really see these guys getting involved in the game because of all the names I've already talked about at the top of the preview, right? Unlikely to see Tanner Hollinger this year on the field. That is also true of Nick True. He is number 43. He redshirted the 2023 and redshirted 2023, and he did not play last season. He's from Chicago, though. Fun fact, he lived in South Korea from ages 1 to 8 before moving back to Chicago. He played at Jacobs High School. There are a couple of typos on his profile, though, on the Illini Athletics website. I made sure to make a note of that. The Illini Athletics website's been pretty good with the bios so far, but let's fix those typos. Come on, let's give Nick True a true bio. How about that? He's also not going to play, though. I'm not going to lie. He's not going to play. These other guys. Lastly, we have our 2 recruits for the tight ends. Logan Farrell, he has no number listed on the website. He's a good recruit, but he has no number listed. His social media handles have 87 in it, so I'm assuming he'd be 87 because, I mean, come on, that's the most iconic tight end number there is between Gronk and Kelsey. Yes, I said Kelsey. It'll probably piss people off, but hey, I said Gronk first. You got to give me that. 3-star recruit from Arlington Heights. ESPN has him ranked as the number 10 tight end in the nation and the number 8 prospect in the state of Illinois. ESPN loves this guy. And I see why when you look at his stat line, right? He was a 3-time letter winner at Hersey High School. He had 63 receptions, 828 yards, and 19 touchdowns between his sophomore and junior years there. Those are the stats I could find on him. 3-time state athlete as well in shot put and discus. A lot of track stars in here at tight end. A lot of throwing events. His other offers were very good as well. So this is a very good recruit that we got here. Cincinnati, Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, Syracuse. Really good. Really, really good. However, the fact that he doesn't have a number listed on the official website makes me feel like he's going to redshirt. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun on that one at all. I'm not confirming that, obviously. I just kind of get that feeling. But if he doesn't, I think they'll be okay at tight end this year. No matter what, but he really excites me. I think he has a really good background. ESPN's very high on him. He was 10th in this class. So, but we'll see if I'm right about that. But I feel like not having a number, I mean, we've been in spring ball for almost a month now. So I'm kind of getting those vibes from him. Let me know what you guys think. Lastly is Grant Smith, number 84. He's a 3-star recruit from Forsyth, Illinois. He played at Moreau Forsyth and was a 4-year letter winner. He had 91 receptions, 1,594 yards, and 27 touchdowns across his high school career. ESPN has him as the number 37 recruit in the state of Illinois. He's a 2-time all-conference in football. He also was all-conference in basketball, and he was a state qualifier in discus. This is what I'm saying when we got these throwers at tight end. We got some strong dudes. His only other major offer was Ball State, which I only wanted to mention because shout out the Cardinals. I had cousins that went there. I mentioned that last week too. That's your tight end preview for you. Again, tight ends not super involved besides just in the blocking game at Illinois. There's a lot of question marks, like with Jordan Anderson changing position. Cole Rusk hasn't really gotten to play. So there's a lot of things that Illinois has got to figure out through spring ball, fall camp. And we really won't have a really clear picture until the first couple of games of the season. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the tight end position for Illinois. I'm certainly excited about some of our recruits, especially Logan Farrell stands out to me. Cole Rusk stands out to me as an immediate impact, and Logan Farrell as an impact for the future. But let me know what you guys think. I'm going to talk basketball for these last 5 minutes here because there's been a lot of basketball transfer news for the Illini. There are, and keep in mind, their season has only been over for about a week and a half. 4 Illinois players, all of which who got minutes that are transferring. And this is kind of a year in, year out thing for Illinois ever since they've been under Brad Underwood, right? It's been happening a lot. Morez Johnson is the big one. I'm really going to miss Morez Johnson, especially like in the Maryland game. I really felt like he was the only one who played that game as hard as he could start to finish. I really liked what he brought to the table. Yeah, especially defensively. I mean, it's really important to have a player like that. Those players are just undervalued. He wasn't undervalued, but still, I think he brought more to the team even than what his stat line says. He entered the transfer portal. Illini Twitter did not like that. And he is going to Michigan, so we're going to see him at least once next year, if not twice. Morris Johnson to Michigan. Then Kerry Booth didn't play a whole lot, but he's going to Colorado State. And then Dre Gibbons Lawhorn entered the portal this morning. Actually, that news broke today. And Trey White entered the portal a couple of days ago as well. So still waiting to see where those two end up. But that's rough, losing 4 guys, especially guys with that kind of impact like they had on the team, right? Especially Trey White, Morris Johnson were starters, and Dre Gibbons Lawhorn certainly got into the starting rotation at times. Hurts even more when you remember that Yakashonis and Will Riley are likely to declare for the NBA draft. That's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure like the 2 great freshmen we had outside of Morris Johnson. So this team, it's just going to be an entirely different team. I mean, they're just getting completely gutted. And this is what has happened under Brad Underwood's teams for years. He runs players out of there. I know the transfer portal has been going crazy, right? You're always going to have guys transfer, but this many big impact players all transferring, and this soon. This is the 4th one today was Dre Gibbons Lawhorn. And it's been a week and a half since they lost to Kentucky. It really hasn't been that long. It's been about like 10, 11 days. It's crazy to have 4 guys at that kind of impact. Boris Johnson basically declared for the portal almost the next day. I mean, because he, excuse me, he and Kerry Booth are already committed. Like they've already been in the portal for a bit now. I think that's just what Underwood just has a track record of doing that. He's a screamer. And we know that he's a screamer in practice, right? We know about the treadmill and all of that. I love a good, tough love coach. But I think there's a difference between tough love and just screaming your head off. Hey, guys, if you know what I mean. Screaming your head off at a bunch of 20-something-year-olds is not going to get you anywhere with them. I mean, who does that get you anywhere with anybody? When are you ever going to get a point across by just screaming at someone? There's a difference between being mad and just screaming all the time. Tough love is absolutely necessary, especially in today's basketball world, right? But I'm not like you guys remember Mark Smith. Like a lot of people felt like he was soft. Like honestly, I can't blame the guy. I wouldn't want to play in that kind of environment. And a lot of other players don't. Like it's not necessarily that they're soft. Mark Smith went and was a lot more successful at Mizzou. Illinois players have left consistently. And this is probably the most dramatic transfer portal leaves. That's definitely not proper phrasing. But you guys know what I mean, right? This is just it's a lot more impactful this year. Like this is pretty shocking. This is pretty rough, especially with our 2 freshman stars likely going to the NBA draft. This is just not a good look at all. And I think it's unfortunately become a pattern with Brad Underwood coached Illini teams. They are looking into some other guys in the portal though, because we got to field almost an entire new team. At least we're not Indiana. They have no one on their entire roster at Indiana. They're all gone or graduated. So we will take that. At least we're not the Hoosiers. But real quick, there are some players that Illini are looking into. There's Jalen Sellers of UCF. He has Illinois in his top 4. He's down to a top 4. He only played in 3 games last year due to injury, but the year before he had 15.9 points in the Big 12. That's certainly very good. Hoping we get that guard from UCF. There's Josh Dix of Iowa. He visited Champaign this week. He got 14.4 points for the Hawkeyes. He shoots 42.2% from 3, which is a lot better than the Illini shot from 3 last year. That was their big issue I always had with them, is that they were way up there in 3-point attempts and they were way down here in actual 3-point percentage. Like, it just blows my mind why they kept shooting threes. They are literally one of the worst teams in the country at shooting threes, and they had one of the highest rates of attempting 3-pointers. So I love to see a guy shooting 42% from 3, visiting Champaign. He also visited Kansas, Creighton, and Indiana, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see on him as well. All these guys will have to wait and see. Illinois hasn't really landed anyone big. There's also Price Sanford, also from Iowa. He is a 6'7" forward this time. He got 8.8 points last year. He shot 40% from 3, also above Illinois' team average, so I'll take that. He also visited Nebraska. Also, a return to Iowa has not been completely ruled out. The reason Iowa's got so many transfers is because they're changing coaches. They got the Drake coach. I'm Brad McCollum, I think is his name. I don't know if that's correct at the moment, but they got the Drake coach there. Illinois also reached out to Malachi Smith of Dayton, who I can tell you firsthand with watching him play Loyola twice this year is pretty good. A lot of other teams reached out to him, though, so that one's a bit more of a reach. Jalen Sellers, Josh Dix, Price Sanford, very possible, though, right? They're all down to, like, top 4, basically, in the line are part of those. So look out for those guys to be joining the Illini if that is what is to happen. That does it for this week's show. So we got through the tight end preview. We got through the transfer portal news, which is unfortunate for the most part, but at least we're looking into some transfers as well. Hopefully I have some transfer news for you guys next week when it comes to the basketball front. Other than that, thanks for watching Finding Illini Live, Episode 3. Next week, we'll be kicking it off with the offensive line position group preview, wrapping up the offense. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for joining me. ILL.